Right, okay. Right, so last night's homework was page 30, 10 to 14. Does anyone need me to do number 10? Yeah, okay. So number 10 reads, right, in an arithmetic series, T5 is 9 and T8 is 27. Find the values of A and D and then find S10. Okay, right. So first off, so we don't know the first, don't know the second, don't know the third, don't know the fourth. The fifth is 9. The sixth we don't know. The seventh we don't know. The eighth is 27. Okay, you do know it's arithmetic, so you're adding on the same number each time. So add on D, right, and you end up at 27. So now number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, yeah. Okay, so that means 9 plus 2 times D. So you add 1D to go to D6, 1D to go to 2. Oh my god, I knew I was wrong. You've added on 3Ds, haven't you? Sorry. So 9 plus 3Ds will give me 27. So 9 plus 3Ds will give me 27. Algebra, D's on one side, numbers on the other. So leave the 3D, leave the 27 over this side, bring the 9 over the wall, it becomes a minus 9. So that gives me 3D is equal to 18. There's a 3 stuck to the D, so divide each side by 3 and you get D is equal to 6. Okay, and you can check your answer. So 9 add 6 would be 15, add 6 would be 21, add 6 would be 27, so I'm good. Right, okay. Sorry, people waiting to get in. Okay, right, so next thing is to try and figure out what A is, right? So remember, you're adding 6 every time to go forward. So to go backwards, you're taking off 6. So 9 take off 6 is 3, because 3 plus 6 is 9. Then take off another 6, that would be minus 3. Take off another 6, that would be minus 9. Take off another 6, that would be minus 15. So if you add 6 to go forward, you do the opposite to go back. Check your answer. Minus 15, add 6 will give me 9. Add 6 to minus 9, you get minus 3. Add 6 to 3, you get, or minus 3, you get 3. And add 6 here, and you get to 9. Okay, so that means A is the first term, so A is minus 15. Okay, so then they asked me to get S10, right? So I'm going to get Sn first, right? So I get my, go to my log tables, and I get the formula n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, so a is minus 15, d is 6. So fill in those. So you're not filling in for n. So it's n over 2 into 2 times minus 15 plus n minus 1 times 6. Okay, so bring the 6 to the front. So that's n over 2 into minus 30 and multiply in here by 6. So that's 6 times n minus 1. Okay, so that's n over 2 into minus 30 plus 6n minus 6. Okay, so that would be n over 2, just tidy up inside in the bracket, 6n minus 30 minus 6 is minus 36. Now they asked me to get S10. So that means into this formula, everywhere I see an n, stick in a 10. So that's 10 over 2 into 6 times 10 minus 36. And I think that's 120. 60, take away 36 is 24, by 5 is 120, yeah. Okay, so it works out to be 120. Is that okay? Right. Number 11, anyone need me to do number 11? Number 12? No, what are you saying, yeah, for number 11? or for number 12? 11. No bother. Right, okay. So number 11. Right, it says in an arithmetic sequence T3 is 0 and T6 is 10. Right, it says find the values of A and D and hence find the Sn. Right, okay. So then they want me to find the Sn, and then they want them all to add up to 36. So there's find A and D, then find Sn, and then find where Sn adds up to 36. Okay, right. So we don't know term number 1, we don't know term number 2, we know term number 3 is 0. Right, we don't know term number 4, we don't know term number 5, we know term number 6 is 10. Right, so we know we're adding a D every time, so add D, add D, add another D, or if you want to look at it like term 3 to term 6, there's 3 terms, so you've added D 3 times, right? So that means 0 plus 3D equals 10. Have I written this down wrong now because it's not working out? Yeah, because it's T8, isn't it? Sorry. So it's not term A, or term, what's that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is 10. Okay, so we've actually added 5 Ds. Sorry, I wrote it down wrong. Okay, so that means 0 add 5 Ds equals 10. Right, numbers on one side, Ds on one side, numbers on the other. So you can drop the 0, that means nothing. So you get 5D equals 10, and you divide each side by 5, and you get D is equal to 2. So that means you're adding on 2 each time. Check your answer. No, it goes add on 2, add on 2, add on 2, add on 2, and add on 2, and I end up at 10. Right? So I know I'm right. Now to go backwards, if I'm adding on 2 to go forwards, right, I'm taking off 2 to go backwards. So this must be minus 2, and this must be minus 4. So that means A is the first term, which is minus 4. Right? So second part is to get Sn. So Sn is the formula n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, so we're going to fill in our values of a and d that we've just figured out. So that's n over 2 times 2 times a turned out to be minus 4 plus n minus 1 times d is 2. Okay, so then multiply out what I can. So 2 times minus 4 is minus 8. This means multiply into the bracket by 2. So I normally put the 2 in front, but I'm just going to multiply. 2 by n is 2n. 2 by minus 1 is minus 2. Okay, so that's n over 2 into 2n minus 10. Okay, so that's my Sn. Right, okay. So the next thing is, right, okay, they said, well, Sn, sorry?
Could you say that A is 0?
No, because term 3 is 0, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to go back 2 terms, right, okay? So term 3 was 0, so no, you couldn't say A is 0. Okay? Right, anything else for me? Right, the next thing is, right, that basically you filled in something for n and you end up with an answer of 36. So you don't know what you filled in for n, but you ended up with an answer of 36. Okay, so to solve this, right, okay, I recommend trial and error. Start filling values for n. You know it's bigger than this, so you know it's bigger than 8. So fill in a 10 and see how you get on. Fill in a 12 and see how you get on. Right, the algebra way is to multiply into the bracket 2n squared over 2 minus 10n over 2. So to multiply, you multiply n by 2n is 2n squared, and you just put it over 2. And here you multiply n by 10, right, 10n, and just put it over 2 equals 36, right. Then you can divide each term by 2, so that's n squared, because the 2's cancel. 10 divided by 2 is 5n, right. I'm going to bring over my 36, it becomes a minus 36 equals 0, okay. Then you're going to do your minus b formula or your two sets of brackets. So we've n and n. Factors of 36 to give me 5 is 9 fours. And then I want a minus and a plus. Check your answer. On the inside I have minus 9n, on the outside I have plus 4n, so that give me minus 5n, so I'm right. So then you let each bracket equal 0, so you get n minus 9 equals 0, and you get n plus 4 equals 0. And then bring over the minus 9, it becomes a plus 9. Bring over the plus 4, it becomes a minus 4. Remember, n is the number in what position it's in the list, so it can't be minus 4 in the list. It's either at term 1 or it's not on the list, so your answer is n is 9. So that means if you add up 9 terms there, right, they'll add up to 36. So if you add minus 4, minus 2, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12, right, they'll all add up to 36. Okay? That was number 11. Am I doing 12?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So number 12. The terms of a series are 5, 8, 11, 14, plus dot dot dot. Sn equals 98. Okay, so basically you're after adding up a load of terms. You don't know how many terms you're after adding them all up, but you added all these terms and you got 98. So find out how many terms did you add. So the first thing you do is you write down A is the first term, which is 5. D is what you're adding on every time. So to go from 5 to 8, you add on 3, 8 to 11, add on 3, so D is 3. So then you get the formula for Sn. So Sn equals n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Fill in what you can. So you don't know what n is, because, right, you know a is 5. So we're not filling in for n, but you know d is 3. Okay? So then multiply what you can. So you get n over 2 times 2 times 5 is 10. Now multiply into this bracket by 3. So you get 3n minus 3. Remember, I normally put the 3 at the front. I'm just taking a shortcut. Okay? So that's n over 2. Then put your numbers together. So I have a 3n. And then we have plus 10, take away 3, which is plus 7. Okay? So that's Sn. But you know, you filled in something for n and you ended up at 98. So you could just start guessing and see, does it work out. That's a perfectly acceptable way to solve it. Okay, so you go n over 2, algebra way is n over 2 times 3n plus 7. Right, you filled in something for n and you ended up at 98. Okay, multiply out, that would be 3n squared over 2 plus 7n over 2 equals 98. Okay, this time, girls, they don't divide it evenly by 2, so this is what the problem was. So the best thing to do here is get a common denominator. So when, you know, when the last one, that number divided by 2 and that number divided by 2, and it was grand. But now we're going to get a common denominator. So you're going 2 into 2 goes once, 1 multiplied by whatever is above the line. 2 into 2 goes once, 1 multiplied by whatever is above the line, equals 1 into 2 goes twice, 2 multiplied by 98. Okay? Because you have a common denominator and you've evened up both sides, you can drop the common denominator now. It's done its job. So you're just multiplying out. So 1 by 3n squared is 3n squared. 1 by 7n is 7n. and equals 2 times 98 is 196. Okay, so then bring over the 196, 3n squared plus 7n minus 196 equals 0. Now I don't even know the factors here, so go for the minus b formula. It's 3n and n factors of 96, 14, 14, will that work? 3, 14, no, that won't work. 16 won't go in, 12 won't go in. Does anyone have the answer to save me racking my brains for the factors? No. Right, okay, hang on, I get out my calculator and I look for the factors of 36 or 196. Right, if you use the minus b formula, you don't have to rack your brains. Right, equals divided by, well, I'd say 18. No, it won't divide by 18. What 196 divided by? 196 divided by 8. No. 196 divided by 12. Nope. 196 divided by 6. No. Oh, sure, for God's sake, divided by 7 maybe? Yeah, 7 is going. 7/28 now. Yeah. So 7/28 girls are 96. If you use the minus b formula, you're better off here, okay? Because it's really hard. It was really hard to find the factors. That's a minus, that's a plus, okay? And then you let each bracket equal 0. So you get 3n plus 28 equals 0. You get n minus 7 equals 0. N's on one side, numbers on the other. So 3n equals minus 28. Divide each side by 3 and you get n is equal to minus 28 over 3. We can ignore that answer for two reasons. It's not a whole number and it's negative, right? And over here we get n equals 7. So basically, if you add the first 7 terms, you'll end up with 98, okay? So if you add the first 7 terms, you'll end up with 98. As I say, girls, when you get to here, do the minus b formula and you won't be racking your brains for the factors like I was. Okay? Right, does anyone need me to do 13? You probably all left me now because you're bored out of your trees. Does anyone need me to do number 14? Yeah, number 14 is the same as, it's very similar to number 12. So if you couldn't do 12, you probably couldn't do 14. But if you have another go at it, you'll be able to, and you follow number 12, you'll be able to do it. Okay? Right. Okay, I'm moving on because, listen, we just want the basics in 5th year. So I think we've got the basics. I know there was a few hard questions last night, but as I say, if we can do the basics, I'm happy for this year. We'll worry about the rest next year. Okay, so I want to move on to quadratic sequences next. Okay, sorry. Before I move on, the next section I'm doing is the last section in this chapter. Okay, I'm going to finish that section today, hopefully. Right, okay. We'll be finished the chapter then. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll do some revision. Would you be okay to do a test on this chapter on Monday? You don't like tests on Monday because you just study for the weekend. Will I say Tuesday in the double instead?
Yes, please.
Yeah, is that okay? So Tuesday, test on this chapter on Tuesday. So that's chapter, what are we on? Chapter 5. Okay, so I'll do revision Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right, and Monday, right, and we'll do it on Tuesday in one class of the double, right? Is that okay? Right, okay, so the next section, girls, is quadratic sequences. Okay, so these are different now. We've just finished arithmetic sequences. Arithmetic sequences, you add on the same number each time And there's two formulas, the Tn formula and the Sn formula, which you will find in your log tables. Okay? Quadratic sequences, I'm going to explain what they are, right? And the formulas that apply to the quadratic sequences, you have to learn. Okay? So they're not in the log tables. So if it says arithmetic sequence, you open up your log tables. If it says quadratic sequence, you pull the formulas I'm going to give you in a minute out of your head. Okay? Because that's where they're going to be. Okay? In a quadratic sequence, the second difference is a constant. It's not going to make any sense until I write one out and you see what I mean. Okay? So quadratic sequence. So if I have a sequence like 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, ... Okay, so there's no pluses anymore, we're gone back to sequences. Okay, so back to commas. Okay, so we can see to go from 1 to 4 you add 3, to go from 4 to 9 you add 5, 9 to 16 you add 7, 16 to 25 you add 9, 25 to 36 you add 11, and so on. So you can clearly see it's not arithmetic, right? You're not adding on the same number each time. But if you get the differences between the differences, so 3 and 5, so that go from 3 to 5 you add 2, right? From 5 to 7 you add 2, from 7 to 9 you add 2, right? And from 9 to 11 you add 2. So this number here is called the first difference. Right, and when you get the differences again, this is called the second difference. And what I mean by the second difference is the constant, right? It's the same every time. So second difference is a constant, means it's the same. So you get the second difference. So this is a quadratic sequence, right? So you'll be asked, can you recognize it? And then you'll be asked to find Tn for it. Okay? So can you recognize it first? So I'll just call that example 1. I'll do a second example, example 2. So example 2, if I take the sequence 1, 6, 15, 28, 45, ... Okay? So you say, and they say, what kind of a sequence is this? So you say, well, to go from 1 to 6 you add on 5. To go from 6 to 15 you add on 9. To go from 15 to 28 you add on 13. To go from 28 to 45 you add on 17. So you know it's not an arithmetic sequence, because if it was an arithmetic sequence you'd be adding on the same ones every time. So the sequences we've looked at up to now are arithmetic sequences, and we've been adding on the same number every time. Okay, so it's not arithmetic. So you look again, 5 to 9 you add on 4, 9 to 13 you add on 4, 13 to 17 we're adding on 4. So look at that, the second difference is a constant. So the second difference is a constant, as in it's the same. So it's plus 4 every time. So once the second difference is a constant, it is a quadratic sequence. Okay? Right. Now, as I say, girls, right, okay, you need to remember the next two bits of information I tell you. So the Tn for a quadratic sequence is equal to something n squared plus something n, so a just stands for a number. So something n squared plus something n plus a number, and so on. So like it might be 3n squared plus 2n plus 1, right? Okay, so it's a number in front of n squared plus a number in front of n plus a number at the end. Okay, now can I ask you to please note, see that a, we've had a already where a was the first term. For a quadratic sequence, A is not the first term, okay? A is different, and this is how you get what A is. 2A is the second difference. So 2 times that number there is the second difference. So up here, 2 times that number is 4, so that means that number would be 2. Because double it, double that number, and you get the second difference. So if that number, if the second difference is 4, that means that's 2. If the second difference was 2, that means that's 1. So if you double that number, you get the second difference. So if that number was 3, the difference is 6. If that number was 8, the difference is 4. Okay? So double that number will give you what the second difference is. Okay? Again, not going to make a lot of sense until we do an example, which is what I'm going to do next. But girls, I put a big remember here. So if you have a highlighter pen, I want you to highlight this in your notes copy, because there's very few formulas you have to learn that aren't in the tables. This is one of them. Okay? So highlight, stars, whatever, make it stand out. So when you're going through your notes copy, you say, oh God, I need to learn this off, because it ain't going to jump into your head, right? Okay? So example, right? Find Tn of the following sequence. Now, if it's an arithmetic sequence, you can use the formula in the log tables, a plus n minus 1 times d, but it's not going to be. But you need to check that out first, okay? So here we go. So 3 goes to 4, you're adding on 1. 4 goes to 7, you're adding on 3. 7 goes to 12, you're adding on 5. 12 goes to 19, you're adding on 7. So it's not arithmetic, so that means I can't use the formula in the log tables. I have to use the one I've learnt off. Okay? Right, so then you go add 2, the differences between the differences is a constant, so that means it's quadratic. So this is a quadratic sequence, and how do you know? Because the second difference is a constant. Right, okay, so Tn is equal to an squared plus bn plus c. So that's the 2 bits of information I told you to remember. So there's the first bit of information written down. The second piece of information is 2 times a is equal to the second difference. So in this case, the second difference is 2. So 2 times a is 2. So divide each side by 2. So you've just found out that a is equal to 1. Okay? So that means Tn is equal to 1n squared plus something n plus c. So I have to keep going to figure out what b and c are, right? But I've just figured out what a is because I learnt my stuff, right? That 2a is equal to the second difference. So straight away, and remember, this is a different a to what we were used to. The a in the other formula is the first term. This has nothing got to do with the first term, right? So a is 1, okay? Now, to get the other 2 terms, girls, we have to deal with term 2. So term 1 to start with. So term 1. So term number 1 means everywhere I see an n, I put in a 1, right? So everywhere I see an n, put in a 1, because that's what n is, the number of the term. So for term number 1, I'm going to put in a 1 for n, right? And I know my answer is going to be 3, because term number 1 is 3. Okay, so the first term is 3. Sorry, that should be a plus. Okay, so term number 1 is 3. Term number 1 is 3. So number 1, the position n is the position of the term, so it's in position 1. So in for n, I'm going to put a 1, and I know my answer is going to be 3, because that's what the first term is, right? multiplying out, 1 times 1 to b squared is 1. B times 1 is b, right? C equals 3. Now, leave your b plus c at this side, bring over the 1 over to the other side. So you get b plus c equals 3 minus 1 when it comes over. So that means b plus c equals 2, and that's as far as I go. Now these sums are long, right? Okay, but there's a method to them.
Where did you get the 3?
Term number 1, you know the sequence they gave me? See the first term number 1 is 3. So when I put in 1 for n, I know the answer is going to be 3 because that's what is right there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Any other questions for me? So that's as far as I can go there with b plus c equals 2. Right? Okay, so I can't do anything else here. But what I do know is term number 2. So term number 2 means up here, everywhere I see an n, I'm going to put in a number 2. So that's 1 times 2 to b squared plus b times 2 plus c. What's my answer going to be? For when I fill in number 2, n equals 2, what's my answer going to be? It's up there. What is term number 2? What is term number 2? It's a 4. So I know when I fill in 2 for n, I'm going to end up with a 4. Okay? So multiplying out, 1 times 2 to b squared is 4 plus b by 2 is 2b plus c, and I know the answer is going to be 4. So then I bring my number over, 2b plus c equals 4 minus 4. So that's 2b plus c equals 0. And that's as far as I can go with that one. Okay? But what I have is an equation, 2 equations in b and c. So if I write one under the other, okay? So, would it be okay if I move up a small bit? Is that okay? Have I cut anyone off? Scream at me if I have. So one equation is 2b plus c equals 0. The first equation is b plus c equals 2. Okay? Right. Write them under each other and you're going to do simultaneous equations. So we're going back to our algebra to do simultaneous equations. So we have a 1c and a 1c. Right? Okay? The c's will cancel out. Okay, if one was a plus and one was a minus, they're both pluses. So I'm going to change the sign of the second line. So I'm going to make that a minus, going to make that a minus, and I'm going to make that a minus. Now plus c minus c cancel, give me 0. And 2b minus b gives me 1b, or just b. And 0 minus 2 gives me minus 2. Okay? Now I have to figure out what c is. So you take your top equation, 2b plus c equals 0. I've just figured out b is minus 2. So that's 2 times minus 2 plus c equals 0. So that's minus 4 plus c equals 0. Leave the c, bring over the minus 4, it becomes a plus 4, c plus 4. So that means c is equal to 4. Okay? So just go back to your formula. Tn is equal to an squared plus bn plus c. So that means Tn is equal to, you found out a was 1n squared, you found out b is minus 2, so minus 2n, and you found out c was 4, and there's your answer. Okay? Right, there's a lot to it, and I have a second example that I'm going to go through now. So there's a lot to it, isn't there?